Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Life, Law, Fin. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now I do have a familiar face with us again, and this is Mequissa Baptiste. For those of you who are seeing her for the first time, or for those of you who remember her when we spoke about the Inns of Courts, choosing your Inns of Court. But today we're talking about something completely different. We're talking about visas. So this is a huge hot topic for international students, and this is something that both of us have quite a bit of experience with in terms of coming to study in the UK. And we'll also be concluding our discussion today talking about obtaining pupillage, because will be a pupil barrister soon at Rope Walk Chambers. So even before we begin, congratulations, Mequissa. This is a huge achievement.
Thank you. Honestly,
Now,
it's a bit surreal.
no, I could imagine. I could imagine. And just on a light note, what did you do to celebrate when you got the news?
Oh man, I couldn't even really properly celebrate because the day after one of my charities was going out into the communities in Barbados that don't have water and just giving out water. So I didn't get, I think that was my celebration, was charity work, and that was fun. So yeah, that was it.
Yes, definitely. And when you do come back to the UK, when you return, we must link up for some drinks so you can get another element of celebration in there. It's never too late to rejoice and celebrate our victories. Never, never, ever.
Of course, I agree.
Yes, so let's jump straight into it. Now, we do know that as international students, we have always had to meet visa requirements. And I think one of the burning questions for students who want to transition into obtaining pupillage or working in the UK is, how can I go about doing that? Now, I know for myself, I obviously had to go through a process where I had to pay for the immigration health surcharge. So it's basically to access the NHS, a fee for that. And the actual visa process itself is quite expensive. And this is money, by the way, that is non-refundable. You can't get this back. Once you pay for it, that's it. And that's regardless of whether you have been granted the visa or denied. But thankfully, you have two people here today that have been granted visas. So we'll just jump straight into it then, Mequissa. So what kind of visa requirements do overseas students need to meet to attain pupillage?
Okay, so the visa requirements are going to be different depending on your current situation. So if you are set to graduate from university um, during the summer of 2021 or after, then you will most likely be eligible for the post-study work visa. And this would allow you to live and work in the UK for 2 years after you complete your studies. And if you have this visa, I think the pupillage process would be a lot easier. For this, really, the requirements are that you apply before the end of your student visa, that you do have a current student visa, and there are certain requirements of the eligible programs. So if you're doing the bar course, if you're doing a master's, if you're doing your undergrad, all of that will be allowed, would make you eligible for the post-study work visa. And of course, you do still have to pay the health surcharge and the visa application fee. But apart from that, it's a really, really easy method compared to the next method, which is the skilled worker visa. So if you were like me and you were unfortunate enough to graduate before summer 2021, or you're just applying for pupillage outside of the UK, you're going to need that skilled worker visa. And it was previously called the Tier 2 visa, and I think some people might be more familiar with that name. And the requirements for these are that you, one, have an offer for funded pupillage, and after that, you intend to get tenancy and practice in the United Kingdom. The second requirement is that you have a pupillage award of £20,720, or a minimum gross projected earnings of £29,600 as a tenant. And lastly, that you have £1,270 of personal savings held for at least 28 consecutive days. And along with this, you have to pay the health surcharge that Nia was speaking of, and that is, let me just get it here, that is £624 per year. And you also have to pay the visa fee, which is £610. That's what it starts at. So there are a couple of requirements that are really, really big obstacles, I think, for international students to overcome. And I think hopefully we'll try to unpack that today.
Yeah, because I even remember going through my process, and my visa would have been obviously a tier 4 visa because that's the visa you need to study on. There are some requirements, where you have to show that you have enough money to live, especially if you do not have a scholarship. And fortunately, I was able to apply on both routes, just to see how that would look. So if you are a scholar, and given that I was on scholarship, I got in a way to I guess escape some of those challenges. But on my second visa, I was in a weird kind of situation, crossover situation, because I'm still a Barbados scholar being funded all up to this point. But at that particular interval, I got to experience the role of proving your savings, and you need to prove to the home office that you can sustain yourself as a student. You have enough money for rent and you have enough money for food, so living expenses. And sometimes that figure may change year on year. So that's why I don't want to give you the figure that I had to basically prove with bank accounts. And as Mequissa would have stated, it usually has a time period. So it needs to be on the account for probably at least a month, a solid month at least. But obviously that may be subject to change. So just make sure you read the details quite carefully. And I was glad you spoke about that graduate work visa as well too, because the truth is that is probably a route, that is something that if I want to pursue work experience here in the UK now, I have that benefit. And I would encourage any students who are in my position to really apply for it in order to gain the work experience here in the UK. Now, yeah, Makisa, you were about to say something.
I was gonna say one thing to note about that, and I thought I'll probably talk about it more later, but one thing to note about the post-study work visa is that when it comes to actually getting indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom, the years that you spent on the post-study work visa won't count towards the 5 years you've been in the UK. So just bear that in mind. If you are okay with spending 7 years as opposed to 5 years working in order to get that indefinite leave to remain, then maybe it might be worth the risk to try the skilled worker visa route, because I do know a friend currently who is going to go with the skilled worker, well, try to go to the skilled worker visa route, even though that person has the post-study work visa there for them. And the reason being that it would mean fewer years that they have to spend in tenancy meeting that £29,600 threshold, which is, we're going to get into how difficult that's going to be for people to meet in certain areas of law and at certain sets.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's definitely something people have to bear in mind because, rightfully, as you pointed out, some persons may think that it can lead to settlement. It can contribute to spending time in the UK can contribute to that indefinite leave to remain. But it has been made abundantly clear that that route will not be counted, and you will have to apply for probably the skilled worker visa after, if you wish to continue. And I think most of us that are interested in pupillage subsequently will then transition onto that visa. So it can be a process for those of you who are thinking about undergoing or undertaking it. Now, Mequissa, what kind of visa issues do you think international students can expect to encounter?
Well, there are so many visa issues that international students will, I can't even say should expect, they will encounter. The UK immigration landscape is treacherous, and it's something that we have to traverse, and it's confusing and very, very, very difficult. I don't want to understate that, because I want everyone listening to be aware of the risks coming here and the difficulties in staying here. So, as I previously stated, there's the requirement of the £20,000, 720 £20,720 fee. That is the minimum requirement for a pupillage award. And since there are so many sets that do not offer this much for pupillage, this would obviously drastically limit the available sets to you for application season. And depending on the area of law, as I mentioned before, and even the location that you choose to practice in, you're going to be you're going to need to be very, very cognizant of this fact. And similar to the issue with pupillage awards, when you look at the requirement for tenancy and how much you're meant to be making, and remember that it's not like pupillage where there's a fixed salary. You can always point to, well, they're advertising this, I have guaranteed earnings, whatnot. You have to make sure that you are making this £29,600 as a tenant. And you need to also make sure that, again, the sets you choose, the area of law you choose to do, and the area in which you choose to work would allow you to make that much to get past that visa hurdle. And this would mean, for example, if your main interest is crime, you might have to consider applying to sets that not only allow you to do crime, but allow you to do family law or some area of civil law, so that you can make up that money in some way and still have that passion that you're interested in. And I think with this in mind, it's important to also reach out to barristers who are working within the area of law, who are working within the area of the UK that you're interested in working, and who are also at the sets that you want to apply to, and ask them these hard questions. Ask them to be candid with you about how much you could expect to make even in your first year after pupillage, and whether it's going to meet that threshold. So that's those two issues. I think those are the biggest issues. It's going to be the amount of money you have for pupillage and the amount of money you're going to make in tenancy. Another visa issue, I think, that many at the bar don't talk about, either because they are unwilling to talk about it or they're simply unaware, and I think it's the latter for most people, is that some sets don't accept international applicants, and they won't even give you the opportunity to work with them or to get pupillage there, because they simply state, we don't accept international applications. And that was my experience this year with a particular set. And it was disheartening, and it really throws you off the entire pupillage process, because if you're telling me that I am not worthy of being at your set simply because of my nationality, then that it really brings out a reaction in you that is really, I don't know how to explain it. It throws you off your game. So that's another thing that people need to understand, is that most sets are going to be lovely. Most sets are going to say, of course, we accept international students. And in our international student group, we emailed sets. We asked them outright, do you accept us? And most sets were, of course we do. Of course we accept you. We're not going to discriminate against people on the basis of nationality, but just be aware that you might get one or two that will, and you need to know how you're going to deal with that. And the last issue that I can think of would be the sheer expense of a visa. That is the hurdle that I'm trying to get over currently. So apart from the fact that you need a £20,720 pupillage award or above, you still got to make sure that you have enough money to actually get to the UK and to get that visa. And I'll just break down how much it is right now, just this year. So as you said earlier, this could change. The prices can go up or they can go down. So just bear that in mind. But currently the visa application fee is £610. The health surcharge is £624 per year. And also I'll have to show I have £1,270 to support myself for the entire year. So altogether, it's going to be at minimum £2,500 needed to even get the visa, to even land in the UK. And this is not including the cost of flights, the cost of moving, and all these different things. But visa alone is going to be $2,500, £2,500. Look at me thinking in Beijing, £2,500. And obviously this would increase if you have dependents. And let me just get up the prices for dependents. So if you want to move with your partner or you want to move with your kids, it's going to be more expensive. So for these are the prices for a partner. The partner still has to pay the visa application fee, which is £610. The health surcharge, again, £624. And then the proof of support for the partner is going to be £285. So it's less than what you would have to show, but just bearing in mind that this is all together, because you're going to have to do it for this person. It's a lot. So just, I think how I would suggest getting around this is make sure that you're saving in advance. Because if you, for example, get pupillage right out of the bar course, and so you are finishing the bar course in 2021 and you're starting pupillage in 2021, you need to make sure that you have that money, at least £2,500 set aside in case you need to get this skilled worker visa or whatnot. And if you are not in that, if that's not your circumstance, then perhaps you might need to consider whether you should apply to sets that either allow you to draw down the award so that you can help pay for your visa. And I've been fortunate enough to be in that circumstance. Or you are, again, like me, have a year before you start pupillage to start saving for that visa. So yeah, I think those are the main 4 hurdles.
Very, very comprehensive, Mequissa, because I even have the figures up already for the postgraduate work visa. And that is looking like the visa fee right now is looking like £700 just for the visa fee. And the immigration health surcharge is at £624 per year. So you would know that you're multiplying that by two because it's a 2 year visa. So I don't want to underestimate how expensive the visa process is, and it's usually calculated by the amount of time that you expect to stay in within the UK as well. Now, I think this is a very good point for me to also shed some light on a situation in which I encountered with my provider, because this would assist incoming bar course students. Now, there's a particular policy at my university, which is the no detriment policy. Many universities would have implemented this policy given COVID. When COVID was ushered in, many universities implemented this policy, and it generally is supposed to be something of the sort where students are continue to be taken care of in terms of their studies. So things like personal extenuating circumstances, you don't really have to send in a medical and that kind of thing anymore. Now, I faced a situation where to me, I was infuriated, and I was infuriated not because of the university, but because of the system that international students find themselves in. So I'm working within this no detriment policy that's supposed to fit neatly within the Home Office's framework. And within this no detriment policy, it allows bar course students to elect when they want to choose, when they want to sit their bar course examinations. So all you need to do is just be absent. Okay. So as you know how hectic with how hectic the course was, and it continues to be, some students would have decided to sit their BSB exams in August coming, but the first sitting would have been in April. No, I had a few issues in terms of health, mental health, etc. And you know how fast paced this course is. We literally stopped teaching this week, and my first assessment is next week, which is a university based assessment. So we're going, and then we literally have 3 weeks, probably 2 to 3 weeks downtime to prepare for those big BSB exams. Okay. So I just did some, due diligence, some research. So I emailed and I said, okay, what if I want to, trigger the no detriment policy as an international student and choose to sit my exams later? I got a long response from my university, specifically the persons that deal with immigration or international students, saying, well, the no detriment policy, yes, it applies to you, but if you do want to sit it in August and still be in time to apply for your graduate work visa, we don't see how that's going to happen, because the way how we have structured your visa ends at this particular time in July. Okay. So in my head, that was not the experience for me with my first tier 4 visa at my undergraduate university, which basically covered, if the course ended, if my last examinations were in June, the visa actually ended in October. So it was a long period to allow other students to resit, which I thought was clever, because you only recognize these things after you've passed the process. So I recognize, okay, my provider has ended my visa at a point where I can't even trigger that no detriment policy comfortably and still apply for the graduate work visa. So for me, it was a situation where, hang on a second, I'm not in the same position as quote unquote locals. I'm not. They get to sit back and they get to choose when to do their examinations. I'm saying, hang on, I'm still being impacted by COVID just like everyone else. What is the solution for me? The solution for me was, you can decide to go home, but obviously we don't know how the format of the examination will be at that time, and definitely if you go home, those examinations are in August, which means you will not be able to apply for that graduate work visa, because as many of you do or may not know, you have to apply for the visa before your own leave has expired. So I said to myself, what a conundrum. I'm stuck in in a framework that doesn't seem to be working properly or compatibly, dealing with all of these issues going on at the same time. And it was almost like, obviously it's above at one level, it's above my university in terms of trying to, reconciliate that policy with home office. But at another level, you think to yourself, wait, hang on a second, why did you end someone's visa in July when there are receipts in August? Okay, you don't know, God forbid, if someone has an issue, if they're going to need that time. So what is a person supposed to do? Pack up and go home? And because the advice I was given was, well, we're not really sure what will happen in August. So if it's an online exam, we don't know if you're going to have to, maybe liaise with the British High Commission to do it. We actually don't know. It's a wait and see. It's just you going home and just playing with uncertainty. So for me, I just want international students to know that even when you do come into these environments and you're pursuing the bar course, sometimes these policies that you see advertised do not really apply to you. Because I sent a very clear email saying, look, in a way, there is no equality here, because I, as an international student, cannot elect this option and still benefit from the graduate work visa. I can't benefit like my counterparts from work experience here. I have to choose. It's either one or the other. Do you understand? So for me, it was really strange, and it was a situation where even if I didn't want to leave that option open, it's a situation where they're saying, well, you would have to go home because your visa would expire anyway, and then we aren't too sure because we don't extend visas either. So I feel like just international students, where some of these policies do not apply to us in the same way. It may not be the fault of the provider, or it just may be because they might not be thinking through the length of the visa properly that they're given. So just be absolutely aware, and just know that sometimes the framework itself is not functioning as effectively as we would want. I'm sorry about the rant, but I just feel like it's something people should know. It was very frustrating.
No, I completely agree. I feel like this is something we need to talk about, because do you mind me asking when you would have requested a visa from them, your provider?
Yes, from my provider, so if my visa expired in October, I would have been applying at least by August. Yeah, by August or July, because I had to go through the same CAS process, the same CAS, sorry, loose language, confirmation of acceptance studies. I had to redo the process and wait, because at one point I told myself I might not even get home in time for Christmas because there was such a backlog. But thankfully, things sped up and they were able to just give me my new residence permit. But it's just I just noticed the way how my previous university did it, Newcastle, was okay, the exams end here, but we give enough room for students to resit here. There's a wide period, because don't forget, as I said, exams ended in my third year in June, and yet my visa was open all the way till October. Do you understand? And now this
So,
one, is closing in July, you know?
right. So I know international, at least one international student who is at another provider that's not your provider, because I know your provider, that had a their visa ended in like December, and it's the same thing as yours. And why I'm asking, why I'm asking if like the time frame when you requested that visa, is that it should have been after they knew all of the issues that my year group had with the exams. So, and it was still COVID-19. So your provider should have anticipated that there may be some issue. And for that reason, we shouldn't have the visas ending so soon. I'm appalled, and you have every right to be upset. And I think that this highlights one of the main issues that I've seen at the bar, which is that there is a there's a massive push to show the bar, to show the profession, and even the academics around the profession as being diverse, and oh, we're so committed to diversity and all of that. And it seems that everyone has forgotten that nationality falls under race in the Equality Act.
Yep.
You need to ensure that you are not discriminating against people on the basis of nationality. And there shouldn't be any two-tier system for students where international students or overseas students are treated poorly when compared to UK domiciled students. It's not right. And all of these considerations need to be acknowledged. They need to be taken on by both providers and by the Bar Council and the Bar Standards Board to ensure that we are being treated fairly, not only in the pupillage process, but also in the bar course process, in the LLB process, every single step of the way. And I'm honestly, this year has just been me realizing how much work needs to be done to ensure that everybody has an equal playing field, because currently we don't have an equal playing field. And for me, with many, many different intersecting minority identities, I have found that my nationality and me being Barbadian has been the one identity that has counted against me in the UK every single step of the way.
Listen.
And listen, it's not to say that I don't want to be Bajan, because Bajans is what was better than a Bajan anyway. But the point is, I think we are still immigrants, and the United Kingdom does have an idea of immigrants that is not the most friendly. And we have to be real about that.
Listen, I'm glad you pointed that out because it also makes me want to shed light on the fact that, my LLM was joined to my bar course. And we also had, this wasn't even, yes, I think this was situated under the same no detriment policy. So you could choose to submit in June, or you can choose to submit in September. Obviously, there was no choice for Nia because because as I'm speaking about myself in the third person, she is an international student. Her visa expires in July. So, how can she benefit from a deadline that is beyond her stay? Do you understand what I mean? And that's even this is even not considering the graduate work visa and immigrate I just lost the word I need. An advisor, excuse me, would have told me, well, to get around this issue, you might probably need to rely on the skilled worker visa. And I said to myself, but this is the issue. We have an issue at hand, and you're pointing me to something else. Fix it. Your visa length is ridiculous. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Absolutely infuriating because we know that we can't, quote unquote, fix the home office's policies. So do your best for your international students. And I'm sorry to drop it, but we pay the most money as well at these universities. That's the sad thing about it. We pay the most money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Now,
definitely.
I think this leads perfectly on to the next issue at hand, which still has to do with visas. But do you think, and I have an idea of where you may be going with this one, but do you think that the current Bar Council policies facilitate easy access for international students to obtain pupillage?
Okay, so first of all, I want to say that the Bar Council's visa sponsorship program is phenomenal. And I cannot praise them enough for that. I think that's amazing. So essentially, the Bar Council sponsors you. Usually in any other profession, your individual employer is the one to sponsor you. So if there wasn't the Bar Council visa sponsorship program, we would have to get every single chambers that we apply to say they are willing to sponsor us before we could even apply, because it doesn't make sense getting pupillage at a set and then finding out, oh wait, we don't want to spend all of this money and all of this time and all of these resources to come out and sponsor you. So what the Bar Council has done is that they have a sponsorship license, and if you apply to them and you have all of those requirements met, and your chambers, all they have to do is pay a £364 charge, and then they have to write a letter saying we confirm that we give her pupillage and whatnot, and send that off to the Bar Council, and they will sponsor you. And that's it. It's easy for both the applicant who is applying for the visa, and it's easy for the chambers. And I think that's great. Now, of course, with everything in this profession and in most professions, there are going to be areas that need to be improved, I think. So there's one issue that I find with the Bar Council's policy, and it's not necessarily an issue with the policy. It's more of a lack of policy. And I think that the Bar Council needs to require that chambers are more transparent with their stance on international applicants. And it would also be helpful if the Bar Council interrogates the anti-immigrant feelings or stances within the profession at certain sets before they're able to deny applicants pupillage arbitrarily, or simply on the basis of nationality. And I'm speaking about this from personal experience. This year, I had a situation where I applied to a particular set. I worked really, really hard on the application. I got one barrister to review it, everything like that. And when I told my international student group, which I will speak of later, hopefully, I just said, we were talking about which sets we applied to, and I just mentioned that set, and they were just like, oh, you know that they discriminate against international students, right? And I said, what? No. No, of course they don't. That's probably pre immigration overhaul, because this year there was a massive immigration overhaul. They removed a lot of the barriers for international students to make it, or not just international students, to any applicant applying for a work visa. And now it's a lot easier. So I said, well, perhaps that was last year, but this year they don't have any reason to discriminate. They don't have any reason to not accept us. So I reached out to the chambers, and the person at the chambers told me, yes, sorry, we don't accept international applications. And it was just like this blanket statement, like, we're not accepting you. And my response was to go to the Bar Council and be like, is this okay? I did my research. I looked into the Equality Act. I spoke to people who are more knowledgeable of it than I am, of course. And I went to the Bar Council with all of the research I did. I said, this is unacceptable. Nationality falls under race. You're not supposed to discriminate against people on the basis of nationality. How is this in line with both the Equality Act regulations and also the requirements of chambers under the Bar Standards Board ethical guidelines? It doesn't make any sense. And the Bar Council was actually really, really lovely. They were very receptive of what I had to say, and they dealt with the issue almost immediately. They issued guidance, stating that chambers are not supposed to be indirectly discriminating against international applicants or students in any way. And it has been, I think that they have really opened up the lines of communication. They asked for anyone who might be interested in speaking of their experiences, all of that. So I do think, while I think there is room for improvement, because again, even though they release this guidance, there is no requirement for chambers to explicitly state their policies on international applicants, or to have like how every single chambers, when you go onto their website, you would see we respect equality and diversity and all that stuff. We don't discriminate on the basis of race, sexual orientation. Like you can see that on every chamber's website, but nothing is there about nationality. Nothing is there about how they treat people who are not British. And what I would like to see is something like that at every single set, because what it does is that it makes life easier for us, and it ensures that there's transparency and chambers are not indiscriminately denying international students opportunities for pupillage simply on the basis of our nationality.
Agreed. And so if there was one thing at this point that international students should know about applying for pupillage relating to visas, what would it be? I know we've gave them a mouthful of information, but if there was one salient point, what would it be?
Have a community. Have a community. And this is where I'm going to plug our international student group. It's called Internationals and the English Bar. It's a group that Nadia Barry and I created, and I think Nadia is going to come on to the show as well. And we started this to help international students who are aspiring barristers along the way and through this difficult process to ensure that we all make it out alive. And we hopefully all get pupillage, because we're brilliant. We are very capable, and we would be assets to the bar, and we just need help both from each other and from other people who are willing to help us to push us into that space. So my suggestion, and I know this sounds like a bit of self-promotion, is to join our group, get a support, a family, a system, and get help from other people who have been through the process and who are going through the process and who are willing to create a community with you.
No, I definitely can attest to this group. I'm part of the group, and it's very helpful because timely information is always being shared in the group. And it, to me, even if you didn't know about the graduate work visa, you had to know about it if you were in that group. Because Mequissa would know, I am not a very big user of Telegram, but when I do surface, I do see all the messages coming through. And what's good about the group is that, it's a collaborative effort as well. When you would have made that initiative to go to the bar council to speak about visas, acquiring visas, and the pupillage process, it also helps international students to know which chambers are international student friendly and which aren't so very friendly, what to avoid, the pitfalls, the strengths. I think we even had a group. I think there's a subset of the actual big group where
Yeah.
the organizers would have divided you up into the sets that you are interested in applying. And what people do is share their interview experiences, what happened, what kind of questions, what to expect, that kind of thing. So I definitely agree. And there's nothing wrong with a self plug, especially when it's so pertinent and relevant. So definitely get in touch. And I think at this point, Mequissa, is there any way that students can reach out to you? Would it just be on LinkedIn or some kind of platform in order to join the group?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Twitter. I am like, my DMs are always open. I follow back any aspiring barristers anyway, so it doesn't even matter. LinkedIn, I hardly use it, but Twitter, I'm always on Twitter. I'm on Twitter too much. So you can definitely find me there. It's at Mequissa. So just at my first name.
Good.